Hey everyone, welcome back to the Untrivial Podcast. My name is Allie Nelson. My guest today is Bridgett Burrick Brown. Bridgett is the CEO and founder of Beyond Beauty Project. Their mission is to empower individuals to break free from the constraints of perfectionism and harmful societal ideas. Bridgett aims to help others reclaim their confidence and reconnect with their true self by embracing their body, mind, and intuition. Today, we discuss Bridgett's journey in the modeling industry, the dark side of modeling, beauty ideals' impact on women and girls, how to improve our self-worth, and so much more. Drop a comment and let me know what you think of the episode. I hope you all enjoy. And now let's get into it. Bridgett Burrick Brown, welcome to the Untrivial Podcast. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you today, and I know you have your page and project called the Beyond Beauty Project, and I can't wait to get into all of the details of that. But for folks who may be new to you or new to your content, I'd love if you could share a little bit about your background.
So I spent over 25 years now working as a professional model. 4 years ago was sort of like the rock bottom, but I had came from a few years of just like tragedy. Basically, I lost my mom, my dad, my brother, and then I had in a 2-year span, and then I had this string of miscarriages. And the last one, I lost identical twins at 5.5 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I just felt like in that moment, I lost everything. I was just, I wanted to go back to my career, like something that could feel familiar. And I didn't really feel like I had the body that I had before. And I was so used to sort of manipulating and controlling my body because it was almost like I was an athlete when it came to my body being a model. And I had went back to my agency and I was a little bigger. I was a size 6, but I was also 41. And they told me I needed to lose weight. And it just broke me. Like I was like sobbing. I'm sobbing because somebody told me like my arms are big. I'm like a 41-year-old woman that has a daughter. And that was sort of the moment that my project started. It's not about our appearance. We're so much more than that. And beauty comes from within. I know it's cliche, but I really feel like it's true. So I ended up taking a moment. I walked away from the agency I was with and put modeling just on a complete pause. And I said, I'm going to start this project.
Yeah. Wow. That is such an interesting story and so intense. And oh my goodness, I'm just so sorry to hear about your losses. I want to go back a little bit though to when you entered the modeling industry. Like what inspired you to get involved in modeling? How old were you when you started? And what were sort of those standards of beauty when you were in that space?
So I grew up dancing. I was very involved in the dance world, almost went professional. A lot of my girlfriends went professional, still are doing it. And my dance teacher would always say, like, you should model, you should model. And so I tried it one time and it just like I was too shy and modest. And I was like, yeah, I don't like it. It's okay. I don't need to do it. So cut to I'm 18-ish, turning 19. I'm working at Bob's Big Boy with a hamburger. I was working at their headquarters. I somehow got a job as the secretary of the vice president of purchasing. And I was going to school full time, but I was helping fund my college at a community college because my parents didn't have a lot of money. Like my mom was really sick at this point, and my dad worked like double shifts as a welder in a plant in Detroit. And I thought, God, you know what? Maybe I should try modeling. Maybe like I could make like a extra $100 a month,
Yeah.
So I found the best photographer. I worked with him, and then he said, you could do this professionally. Let's send your stuff out. So it was like back in the day. So I made like envelopes with my photos and we sent them out to agencies all over the world. I came back to work one Monday morning, and my boss handed me a stack of faxes. We used fax machines from agencies all over the world saying, we want to talk to you. We'd love to represent you. And I'm like, what? And like my life just changed. So I went to Miami after that, and then Paris and New York. And I didn't know really, I don't think, because I was never really interested in being a model. I don't think I realized what I was getting myself into.
Mhm.
And I was quickly told to, like, that I had too much muscle on my legs from my years of dancing and doing gymnastics, and I needed to like lose a little bit of weight. So that was really the time when my sort of disordered eating, yo-yo dieting started. And I was around all these models that were doing the same thing. So the support was there.
Right.
And I would say how modeling was when I started was still not diverse at all. Like it was very, you had to be uber thin. I started pretty much when the Wayfarer started. And for those who don't know about the Wayfarer, it's like the Kate Moss, like stick
Heroin
thin,
chic.
heroin chic, no curves. And there was really no like race diversity, no gender diversity. It was pretty, maybe there was gender diversity behind the scenes, but who was actually put in the advertisement? It was pretty white and Eurocentric features and tall and thin.
Oh my goodness. It's so different today, even just thinking about, like, how social media impacts how people get discovered. Like, even just hearing your story of how you had to mail out your photos or your digitals, I feel like today it's just, "Oh my god, she looks interesting," or "He looks interesting," or "They look interesting," and they can, like, send you a DM, and that's how you can start working with people. What a different
Totally. It's so
experience.
true. It's so true.
Hearing about those beauty standards, I definitely remember that time. It's kind of like the era that I grew up in, and like the women I looked at and wanted to look like at that time, which I'm curious because now you do this amazing work to basically, actually, I don't want to say it for you. So, your work now as it relates to beauty standards, modeling, just women experiences in society overall. Like, what is that work all about? What's focal to your project?
Well, I think when I walked away or I took a pause, I don't want to say I'm not in the modeling industry at all anymore because I am. I'm just very choosy of what I do. It has to really be in line with my values and our values at BBP. But the thing that I said to myself was, God, like if I feel like this with like, I'm white, I'm cisgender, I'm tall, I have Eurocentric features. How in the heck does ever like so many other people in the world feel?
Mm,
Because there's so much beauty out there that doesn't have those identities or those features. And I had a little girl, and I also had my niece is half Filipino. And so, what we're really doing now is trying to help others be seen. And how we're doing that is by helping to redefine beauty on this bigger platform, but also redefining beauty for ourselves. And one of the ways we're doing that is to kind of reclaim our bodies because we've been told for so long from the media from little kids, how we need to look and how we need to act and how we need to be accepted by society. So unfortunately, if you're not represented in the media, you start trying to conform. And I was conforming. And I don't have a lot of like intersect I don't have really any intersecting, identities. So imagine how so many people feel. And then, the end result is really this like rediscovery or reclaiming or rewriting like your self-worth.
yeah, that's really beautiful, and I can totally relate to that. Like, I remember when I was young, the only thing I wanted to be was blonde. Like, I just wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes because that's what I saw all the time. Like, that's what all the models looked like at the time. And my mom never let me dye my hair, thank God, because I would look horrible as a blonde. But it's hard, and you're so right. Like, I can't imagine the feeling of people who are a different race, a different gender, different identity, how much further away they might feel from something reminiscent of like belonging or fitting in or what that was at the time.
Or acceptance, and it's
Yeah.
still going on. Like, we've definitely widened representation, I would say, but there's a ways to go. There's a lot of
Mhm.
tokenism and advertising happening, and so it's like, I think when we're not having these conversations, we'll be in a good place. There's
Yeah.
so much of this still happening, because even the beauty ideal, although it's not, you don't necessarily have to be 5'9" and really thin and long, shiny hair, Eurocentric features anymore. It's still packaged in a different way. I always say it's still there, it's just packaged differently. Now you have to have all the right curves, and
Yeah.
you have to have
The,
the
like, Kim
right, like,
Kardashian
y-
body.
yeah, the right features on your face. And the problem is because, for example, how we were talking about, like, when I started, it was like faxing. Now it's like we have so much accessibility to all these digital, like, retouching and all that stuff, that makes us have more pressure in a way to even be more perfect.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's like, well, you have all these tools at your disposal. If you don't look perfect with the tools, then what's going on? It's almost worse because the expectations are so high. I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like being someone who used to be a part of that industry and be a model representing kind of those ideals at the time, and now challenging that space, challenging that work, challenging those ideas with your project and what you focus on now?
I feel very proud of what I'm doing, for sure. I also realize that I'm coming from a place of privilege when I talk about our body image. I have so much respect for my career as a model. And when I was working, although maybe there was times where I had disordered eating, or I was manipulating my body a little bit, I pretty much, that's how I look. I am thin. Naturally, I always have been. But I've also always been that person that wants to fight for all of us. Like, I want us all to be accepted. So sometimes I have, like, mixed emotions, and I hope that people take me seriously in that way, because of sort of like the privilege you just see off first glance. But I'm so passionate about it that at the end of the day, I'm proud of it. And I can't really care. It's kind of the premise of Beyond Beauty Project, is like, we have to be ourselves. Like, we have to be authentic and be genuine to ourselves first, and not worry about what the world is thinking or doing.
Mhm. I was wondering if you ever felt like, is this work, and not to be disrespectful at all, but, like, do you ever feel like you're biting the hand that fed you, or it's like, I'm calling in an industry that has problems, that probably knows it has problems, to be better, and, like, wanting to see that change and wanting to help them progress, and, like, highlighting issues so that it can be better for everybody?
I do feel like that sometimes. And that's where I think I have a little bit of, like, oh, but at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing is the right thing.
Mhm.
There's so much going on in that industry still. It needs to be changed. Like the Model Alliance, I don't know if you know the Model Alliance. It was started by a model, Sarah Ziff. She's really trying to get more, protection even for models. I mean, even when I was older, I remember being like 33 and going to my booker and saying, like, hey, this photographer was kind of creepy. Like, okay,
Mm,
for me, I could handle him, but I'm worried about if, like, an 18-year-old goes to him. It's not a safe environment. And it
right.
kind of gets blown off still. It's just sort of like, we have to make changes. We have to. And the modeling industry is changing, but it's like, when you're in something so deep, you can't sometimes see what
Mhm.
else is going on outside, and that you are sort of contributing to people feeling bad about themselves, or not being seen, or perpetuating unrealistic beauty standards that can be super harmful. I mean, the data and the research that's going on with these young girls, and the pressure for them to feel perfect, is why I am not doing it out of any disrespect. I
Mhm.
appreciate the career, I appreciate it where it got me, but I stand very firmly that I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to get into teenagers and social media and what's kind of the after effects or this generation's effects of the beauty standards and ideals. But before we get into that, you brought up kind of this idea of the dark side of the modeling world and modeling industry. Because I think when people who are not in it, you think about modeling, you're like, oh my God, how glamorous, how fun, like travel, designer brands. Like it just seems very amazing in a lot of respects. But I'm wondering if you could talk about kind of that underbelly of maybe some of the things people don't really think about when they first think of modeling that are really challenging or really hard in the space.
Yeah, I mean, I would say all those things are true. It is fun and you get to travel, seem very glamorous, or you can feel very, it's fun getting your hair and makeup on and putting on the beautiful clothes. And then I think a lot of us sort of know a lot about this, but it's like there are like sexual predators and there's no regulations there to keep the models safe. And unfortunately, a lot of times the agencies don't keep the models safe either. There's also this sort of thing people are starting to talk about it more where it's like when you get signed as a model, it's like you're so lucky that you're a model. And that is sort of the tone that goes out, that you don't have any control of your career.
Yeah, just be grateful that you're even in
It's
here
like
kind of
be
thing.
compliant, be quiet, be grateful, show up, do what we say when we say it. And that's really disempowering. It's so
Yeah.
disempowering. I'm pretty sure Katie Wilcox at Natural Models is changing that formula a bit to empower her models, because you have this career that's your career, but at the same time, you don't have a lot of control over it. And there should be some. You should have a little bit more access to like what's going on in your chart, what's going on in your calendar. And I think that you can really lose yourself. So if you're going to go in the industry, you really have to know who you are, who you stand for, what you'll do, what you won't do, because
Mm.
there will be pressures.
And I feel like a lot of that self assurance and self confidence is something that sadly only comes with age sometimes. And when the girls in the industry or in the space are predominantly late teens, early 20s, like, do you have that yet? Like, are you going to be able to stick up for yourself in the ways that you need to at that time? Like, I'm not
Not
sure.
not always,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, it's weird. I had a lot of confidence in some areas and then I had no confidence in others. And I remember one of my first shoots in Miami that I was sent to do. It was like a test shoot for my book, you know. So I was just kind of getting new pictures for my portfolio. And I walked in and it was just me and this male photographer who is much older than me. That's it. In his house,
Oh
and
gosh.
he was like, the clothes are in the bathroom, go put them on. And I went in and there was crotchless underwear.
Oh my gosh.
So I was so nervous. And I was so like innocent then.
Mm.
And I walked out and I was like, I can't wear those, not wearing crotchless underwear. And I didn't end up wearing them. But I stayed the whole day and shot with this creepy guy instead of leaving, because I didn't feel like I could do that. I felt like the agency would be so disappointed with me if I didn't do what they had told me to do.
Mm.
And the whole day I basically got bullied because I didn't wear these underwear. I was getting shamed and like it's the in thing and everyone's doing it. You're not going to have a career, you know? So
Oh
just
my
think of what
god.
that does to your, and then you go home and like, I don't think I told anybody for a really long time because, yeah, while I didn't get sexually abused in the way of like getting touched, that there's a form in there for sure. There's some that
Mm.
was so inappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's insane.
yeah, and then cut to like I told you the story a little bit ago. It's like it's still happening. You know, I was a 30, I might have even been older, like 36, 35. And I could really be like, okay, you're too close, you know, but I still stayed, to be honest. I should have walked away, but you don't really feel supported in the industry that you can do that. So I love, love, love. If anybody's interested in this, I love the work that Sarah Ziff is doing at the Model Alliance. Like, bravo to her.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that story just further solidifies this sad idea and truth that women are so tied to their appearance as their form of value in a lot of ways. And there's such an objectification of women, there's such a sexualization of women, and modeling is a space where you see that, but then it just gets kind of spread all over the culture. It's in, celebrity magazines, social media now. Like, how do we as women receive all of this media, all of this stimulus, all of this information about what we're meant to look like, be, how we're meant to value ourselves? How are we meant to deal with this?
I know. That's like our big question at BBP. I think it starts with education because, especially with the little ones now, like I have a 9-year-old daughter, and her generation is one of the first generations that when they were born, social media was here.
Yeah. Oh
Like
Lord.
I wasn't on Instagram till later, I think
Mhm.
Instagram's been around for about 10 years or something. But so it's not something we can escape. We see so many advertisements and media images, whether it's on social media or magazines or walking around your city or driving billboards all day long. It's like this subconscious messaging that we're getting. So I think educating ourselves is the first one, really like being able to, from a younger age. I do a lot of preteen workshops and I teach sort of social media literacy because they need to know what's influencing their lives. And I
Yeah.
think that they need to learn it earlier, as we all do. But the earlier we can get them, the better. But it's like knowing that that image is probably retouched, or maybe it's like one of the basic ones where like that's good lighting, that's good hair and makeup, that's, she's not walking around in those like 6-inch heels every day. Um,
Mhm.
so sort of educating yourselves with the reality of it. And then you can do other things like who are you following on social media? Because that's really influencing you too. Like what are you seeing? Just like sometimes we just think it's like a scroll, 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 but you're getting those messages in your brain,
Yeah.
Really look at your social media and be really honest with yourself. Are you only seeing the same skin color that you have? Are you only seeing the same body type that you have, the same gender that you are, the same abled body that you are? Like, really start to curate, because once you do that, your world does open up and you do start to have this like appreciation for other people. And then I would think another thing that we can do that's really important is if you right now really are sort of obsessed with your appearance and it's maybe giving you anxiety because it's not as good as you want it to be, or you feel like you need to be a little bit smaller, start to think of all the things you are that has nothing to do with your appearance. So write them down if you need to. Most of the time, we don't like people for the way they look. We think that we do. But if you think of who's your really good friend or that family member that's like they feel like home to you. Generally, you can be yourself. You're fully accepted by them. You can take a deep breath. You can be authentic. So, it's because they probably like the things that you are. Like, I know my friends like me because I'm really honest. And they're like, okay, we're just going to tell me. My best friend, it's like we crack up all day long together. It's like we're both funny. No matter what we're going through, my husband and I are the same with this too. It's like no matter what we're going through, we want to be happy. So none of that stuff has to do with the way we look. So start kind of taking that focus away. And I have so many things you can do here, but like one of them is cover your mirrors up in your house for a little bit. Maybe don't take some selfies for a couple weeks. Like whatever it is, the thing you're doing that you're really objectifying yourself. I love a nice like blowout and I put some makeup on and I like feeling pretty and girly, whatever my definition is of that. But my appearance does not own me.
Mhm.
It doesn't. I'm not saying that there wasn't a time that it didn't, because there was, but now my appearance does not own me. It's really the least important thing about me. And I know that now.
Yeah. I think it's so hard sometimes. I love the idea of maybe even just testing covering up a mirror? Say you weren't going anywhere for the day. Maybe if you had to leave the house, you might want to double check if you brushed your hair. But you know, I think it's hard sometimes when you consume all this media and say you are the type of person where your media and your social media is people that are almost like aspirational, like they're stunning, they have, a life that you find inspiring, they've got, gorgeous skin, gorgeous hair. It's very common now people have like Botox and filler, maybe they look, super full and amazing, and it's so hard, I think, to look in the mirror and like not hear your internal dialogue start going if you're comparing yourself to those people online. And it's like how to kind of stop that voice in your own head that's judging you, because I find oftentimes we're our own worst critics. It's not even other people who would ever say, oh my god, I don't like your hair, or I don't like this. It's ourselves.
Hmm. I mean, I know this is going to sound easier said than done, but like once we start appreciating who we are, and even if the comparison comes in, say, like, okay, I'm comparing, I'm not going to do that. Maybe let me look in the mirror if I'm going to look in the mirror and find something I do love about myself. And if you can't find anything in the mirror, it's not as easy as looking in the mirror and being like, I love myself. It's really not. I wish it was that easy because we would all love ourselves. But I think getting into the things that have nothing to do with your appearance
Mhm.
and start like dive into that more, get away from the mirror for a moment. Get away from the things that make you compare. I mean, I unfollow people all the time on social media because I'm like, sometimes I don't even know why that feeling comes up, but it does. And I don't need to have that in my psyche.
Right.
So where are you getting triggered, and take those out and then go back to focusing on all the things that you are, because you're so much more than your appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to people? Because I know a lot of even like younger people on social media, there's, for example, tons of like makeup influencers and, people who use beauty as a creative outlet, creative space. So, what would you say the difference is between masking your flaws and it, coming from a place of wanting to hide versus someone who might be highlighting their beauty in different ways or being playful with beauty and enhancing those different features? Do you think there's a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're hiding yourself versus like having fun with it, I think that beauty can be super fun. I think fashion can be fun. I think makeup can be fun. I think all of that stuff can be fun. If you do it and it feels good to you, and you really want to have like this check-in meter, like how, like, is it controlling you too much? So I think if you're feeling like you need this stuff and it's almost like panic and you have to put your makeup on before you go to the house, that's really not about your appearance. There's something within us that we need to heal. So taking a look at that, because I think all that stuff can be super fun.
Yeah. It's like less about the activity and more about the driver.
Yeah. I mean, I always say beauty is how we feel.
Mm.
Because even maybe those times where I put on the perfect outfit and I felt like I was this like the perfect size and I had the perfect makeup, I didn't always feel beautiful, right? So I think that's where the fine line comes from. It's like how are you feeling? How are you feeling inside? A lot of the times when I'm not feeling beautiful, it's because of other things and really how I look. It's usually I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I'm run down, I haven't been taking care of myself that great. I usually need a couple of good night's sleeps, some water, I need some like nourishing food. I probably need some alone time because that's my sort of
Mhm.
reset. And then I feel like I look good, And 3 days before, I was probably like spiraling. That to me is proof enough that it's really how we feel on the inside.
Mhm.
And then I'll even sometimes, because I'm like researching all this stuff now, I'll go back and like look at a video that I made that day where I was like being hard on myself. And I'm like, I look good. Like, like what was I thinking? And because I didn't feel good. I think it's starting to be mindful of like, okay, how do I feel? Let me check in. Let me check in with my mental health. Let me check in with my emotions. But did I get triggered by something that I saw on social media, or when I was out with someone, even being around certain people, like I'm pretty careful about who I spend my time with and what I look at, what media I consume, because it's triggering for me. I have a history and I want to feel good.
Yeah, I feel like what you just mentioned there, it so much stems from confidence, but I think sometimes your confidence doesn't necessarily have to do with your appearance. It has to do with all of those things, hormonal shifts, your energy, did you sleep well? Like I feel so different day to day, month to month, but I think sometimes yeah, you're right, the output is like I look in the mirror and I'm like, "Oh no, like not today." And other times I'm like, "I'm having a great day." But you're right, it changes all the time and it's not necessarily tied to what you actually look like.
It's okay. We all have them. And I will tell you right now, from doing this work I've done for the past couple of years, I have not met anyone that escapes this, really.
Yeah.
Because of the culture and the society that we live in, we all have pressures and we all have bad body image days. All of us, all of us.
Mhm.
So just say, you know what? I'm going to be nice to myself today. I'm not going to stand in the mirror and body check and criticize and then go through all my pictures and tell myself why I am ugly or whatever you tell yourself, or that you're getting old. Or I'm going to instead say, okay, I'm having a moment. I'm triggered. I'm triggered for some reason. And I'm going to step away from the mirror. I'm going to step away from the pictures. I'm going to put on clothes that fit me very nicely. I'm not going to squeeze myself into clothes today. And I'm just going to then think of the things I need to do to take care of myself. We're healing and we're healing all the time. And I don't believe healing is a journey you arrive at. I believe healing is a journey that never ends. So, how can we sort of embrace it and work with it? And then it's like building a muscle little by little.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to talk about the younger generation again and kind of girls who are coming up in today's world because as you mentioned, like they have so much more access. It's like if you have a cell phone, you have access to the internet in your pocket and it is full of not only models, which is kind of we were limited to kind of back when I was growing up, and now it's models, it's influencers, it's your friends who have Facetune and look really amazing. I know you talked about the education piece. Is there a part of you that's like, I don't want to give kids social media? Or what are your thoughts on even having access?
Oh my God, absolutely. If I could take everything from my daughter forever, I would. If it's funny because it's just became a big conversation in my house and
Okay.
it's really stressed me out. I'm actually building out right now. I have a meeting today with a guy that teaches cybersecurity, and we're building a workshop that will be for parents to teach sort of this like cyber safety, and then also this social media literacy that we can help our children navigate. So this one I'm still exploring, but here's my thoughts. I think that there's no regulation on social media. If anybody has been following the Mark Zuckerberg Senate situation, it's really like the wild, wild west. Like there's no security. And that also comes with what they're seeing. And so, like you said, it's like, I used to get the occasional like teen magazine or something. Now it's just like in their faces. So I think monitoring is super important. Like I'm doing that. I'm not letting my daughter on everything, but we can't escape it. And it's this weird line of like, it's kind of part of them now.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is just kind of part of the world. And because they, like I said, when they were born, I was here, it's like really part of becomes almost part of their identity. So how can we help them understand that it's not a real reality? In my workshops, I do a lot of like, this is retouched, this is not retouched, and this is what this influencer showed you in her week, but this is actually what was going on. And like,
Right.
the one week is all happy, and then the other week it's like she's crying and she's stressed out because she has finals. And so, yeah.
I didn't even think about that part. Sorry, the highlight reel aspect of social media as well. It's not even just the beauty space, it's also all these young girls and boys thinking everyone's life is perfect because that's all they show as well. So not only are they stunning, but nothing bad ever happens to them
Nope.
either. Holy.
And like the YouTubers that some of these kids watch, it's like they think they just get to go to Target and buy whatever they want. And they don't, like, me and my husband have had a lot of conversations with my daughter. Like, that's not reality. Like Target is paying her. But it's like when they're young, it's really hard to explain to them all the like, capitalism that comes with it.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's like it's not something we can escape. So how can we educate them? How can we have it in balance? And I think that's per household what you think and how your child, you know, does with it. Some kids could care less. Some kids are like, I want it all. So you might have to limit it a little bit more for them. And then obviously we have to keep them safe. So having all the parental controls.
Yeah. Do you limit screen time in terms of like number of minutes or hours as well?
Yeah, we do zero screen time during the week. It's like by the time you go to school and you do an activity and you do homework, and then on the weekends we'll let her have a little bit. But she always tells us that we're the strictest parents. I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah, I know. I always tell people like when I have a kid, I'm not giving them like a phone with internet on it until they're like way older, and everyone's like they're going to be the one kid that's left out. You can't do that. And I'm like, "No, I just need to find parents who agree with me and we just all don't let our kids on social
I
media."
know.
But I'm going to have to find this like community somehow.
There's a campaign going around in our area. It's like wait till 8. So like wait till 8th grade to
8.
give your phone.
Oh
No,
my
8th
god.
grade. It's
Oh.
wait till 8th grade.
I was
To
like
give
that's
your
not waiting very
I
long.
know. To wait to give your kids cell phones. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to jump on that wagon, but like there's third graders that have
Yeah, that's
phones right now.
nuts.
I know. It's
Insane.
crazy.
I wanna go back to kind of this women kind of our age or people who are a little bit more grown. How might we reconcile not wanting to be tied to this, like, appearance-based value system? Like, a lot of women are just like, "Oh my god, I'm so sick of this. I don't buy into this anymore." But at the same time, feel like if they boycott makeup or boycott these things that have historically been, like, keeping them in that, like, box, that beauty box,
Mhm.
they also are hyper aware that they will then lose out on, like, privileges that come with fitting in that box and
Mm.
pretty privilege. How do you determine the best path forward? Is it kind of losing out on things that you know could aid you as much as like, as damaging as they are? Sometimes it's helpful, or do you kind of just rebel against all of it and say, "No, I'm not subscribing to this?"
I mean, I think this is tricky because I just posted something, a reel on how one of the jobs that women have, it's like the silent work of women, is
Mhm.
our appearance.
Yeah.
And there's data. It's like that if you like fit into the beauty ideal, you get paid a certain percentage more. And obviously there's a lot of gender stuff going on there just between like the female and male. I think that these conversations, it's like us all, and like somebody wrote me a long message about it. She's like, I just felt this so deeply at a conference, and she's getting older, and she's one of the only women executives in her space, and you have to do what's right for you, really, and not wearing any makeup is going to cost you your job, and you need your job. I'm not going to tell you to do that, but I think it's continuing us all continuing to support each other in the ways that we can. And like little by little, like hopefully these shifts will change so we don't feel so controlled by that. Because we
Yeah.
are very controlled. Our appearance is very consequential as women still,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in all the ways. And relationships and work and being seen as smart or not smart. And it goes into a lot
Totally.
of different areas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we as women could, if you see someone who is not subscribing, don't perpetuate the box, don't perpetuate the ideals. If you see that, it's like celebrate that. Like it's one step closer to all of us not having to spend 2 hours getting ready in the morning. My husband just gets in the shower and then goes to work. I'm like, "Oh my god. Look
I
at you."
know. Totally. Well, it's kind of like I remember when the first like makeup free like selfies started going around social media. That wasn't that long ago, you know?
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people don't wear makeup as much anymore. I think it's becoming, or they look like they don't have makeup and they've actually done a full contouring. But um, I know that there was definitely a time where like I didn't feel comfortable like going to a social event or kind of even sometimes leaving my house without makeup on. And now I'm the opposite. Like I rarely wear
Mm,
makeup. That's why I know that the education and the opening up your lens of the world really does make an impact on your self-worth and how like, oh, I can love myself without makeup on, or I
yeah.
can love myself even if I'm wearing my really comfy clothes today.
Yeah. I feel like, as horrific as COVID was for everyone, it really did get a lot of people comfortable with being a little bit more lax and loungy and even like work from home. Like, I don't put on makeup when I'm working from home anymore, even if I have Teams meetings and stuff. And I think almost that collective, we're staying put, we're not getting ready, we're not going out, kind of shifted the requirements a little bit to be a little bit more lax, which is nice.
Totally. There's definitely
One
some
positive.
blessings. It's a couple of blessings in COVID.
Yeah, and you were mentioning self-worth. I know we talked about focusing on what you like about yourself that has nothing to do with your appearance. Do you have any other pieces of advice for folks who might be looking to cultivate a deeper sense of self-worth?
I think one of the most important things for cultivating self worth is really getting back in tune with ourselves. What do you want? What do you need? Kind of getting rid of those shoulds, because when you start to do that a little more, you don't fit into the little box of perfectionism. And in turn, when you start getting in tune with yourself, you start living in your body again. Because this objectification that we're doing a lot of times when we're body checking or we're trying to manipulate our bodies to be smaller, whatever, more curvy, we're really kind of looking at our bodies from outside of ourselves. So, like, I would say if you want to cultivate a sense of self worth, you have to start by getting back into your body and getting back in tune with yourself and really learning yourself, learning what you like, what you want to do, who do you want to be with, who makes you feel good when you're with them, and who doesn't make you feel good. Where do you need to like make some more boundaries? Or actually, I have a subscription, an Instagram subscription, and February is all about cultivating more self love. So we're really diving into all of these questions. I do like journal prompts every Sunday.
I love that.
It's really thinking about like, how do you feel and what makes you feel good, and do that more, be around that more.
Yeah, I love that. So for you, obviously it sounds like you've been on a journey. Would you say this is a process that takes a lot of time to get to where you are with your self-love, self-worth, the way you feel about your body image?
I think it's a journey for sure. It kind of goes back to, I think that healing isn't a destination. It's really this like, I think we're healing forever in different
Yeah.
ways. I don't think it has to take that long. It's really a mental practice, right? It's like really working that muscle of learning the things that's going to make you feel good. It takes time. And I think when you can kind of embrace it, it's fun. I know it
Mhm.
sounds probably crazy to a lot of people, but it
No, it
can
would be
be,
fun to
yeah, it
like
can,
reflect, and even if you're scrolling something, you get a feeling of like, "Oh my god, she's so beautiful." It's like, "Oh, okay, what's going on for me here? What
yeah.
feelings are coming up?" And you can almost notice or start to try and notice in real time, do certain things trigger you? If yes, what are they? If listeners could take one thing away from you, your page, your message, what would you want it to be?
I think I would encourage people to start tuning in to their selves, their intuition. I feel like we all have this little inner knowing, and
Yeah.
really start getting back into our bodies and just start expanding our views in the world, start expanding what we see. So
Mhm.
if you're spending a lot of time on social media, expand the people you're following, but start really getting in tune with yourself, asking yourself, what do I like? What do I want? What do I want to do?
I love that. Where can people find you, get connected, and learn more?
So we're the most active on Instagram. Our handle is beyond.beauty.project. We have a subscription on there, which is really fun. There's journal prompts every Sunday and a bunch of other little things. And then I do preteen, teen, sorority, mom, corporate workshops, speaking events. So I'm available for those. And I do one-on-one coaching. So there's a lot of ways to work with us. We always promote that on our newsletter. So subscribe to our newsletter that you can get on our website, which is just Beyond Beauty Project. And we post everything on Instagram. Instagram and our newsletter is a great way to keep in touch.
Amazing. Bridgett, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such an amazing conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.